I am pregnant.
That's a fake pregnancy.
In my last couple videos, and I want to say that I've been getting a couple DMs as well of a lot of people just asking me if I was pregnant. A lot of you guys were just making comments saying that I had the pregnancy nose, that I had gotten really chubby. I actually don't have any type of footage of me actually finding out that I'm pregnant with the pregnancy test, because I literally had no clue that I was pregnant. And the main reason being that I was on birth control when I did end up pregnant. Pregnancy was not in my plans. It was definitely something that didn't cross my mind, especially when I took the test. I honestly just took it because my boyfriend kept telling me that he had a feeling that I was pregnant. This is my story time of finding out that I'm pregnant. It only makes sense if I give you guys like a little backstory of, you know, the moments leading up to my pregnancy or me getting pregnant. So I have been with my boyfriend for almost 4 years now, and I actually lost my virginity to him. So when I lost my virginity to him and I knew I was going to be sexually active, I knew that obviously I had to get on birth control. My mom has always been my best friend, so I've always felt comfortable bringing up topics like that with her. And growing up, my mom has always told me, like, if I ever did anything like that, to tell her immediately. Not immediately, but to tell her, that way, you know, she can help me with resources and get me on birth control. So when I lost my virginity, I told my mom a couple months later, and she got me an appointment, and right away I got on birth control. The first birth control I was ever on was on the arm implant, which was the Nexplanon, I think that's how you say it. I want to say that I was on that birth control for maybe 3 years, or I was about to be 3 years with it. And the only reason why I ended up taking out that birth control was because it started giving me a lot of issues towards the end. At the beginning, I never had any like weird side effects. The only side effects that I could kind of tell you that were, you know, sometimes would get my period 2 times a month, but I didn't really mind it just because it wasn't like a super harsh period. It was just kind of like spotty. And on top of that, I did also gain a lot of weight, but I was actually happy with the weight gaining that I was getting from that birth control, because for the longest time I struggled to gain weight. I would always gain weight and then lose all that weight and get super skinny, and it was always hard for me to gain weight again. And then once I gained weight, it was just like the same little cycle. So when I got on birth control, the birth control actually helped me a lot to gain weight. If you guys go back to like my videos 4 or 5 years ago, you guys can definitely see how skinny I was before I got on birth control. But towards the end of me having this birth control, and the only reason, like I said, I took it out was because my arms started reacting to the birth control in a really bad way. The best way that I can describe this feeling was literally as if like I had laid down, like I had fallen asleep on my arm and woken up and felt like little ants crawling on my hand or my arm. Out of nowhere, like my whole arm would feel numb. Like I wasn't able to have any strength on my left arm. I would grab little things and I would feel as if like they were gonna fall out of my hand. I was also going to the gym at this time, and every time I would pick up a weight, like I literally just didn't have any strength. I felt as if my whole arm was just tingling. It was numb, like it was just such a weird feeling. So I immediately knew something was not right and I had to get it checked. So I got in contact with my primary care doctor and I went in, and as soon as she felt for my birth control, she had told me it had actually moved down. And I actually kind of still have a scar of like where it was inserted and then where it was taken out. So when I first got my birth control, it was, looks like it was like right here. I want to say like it was like that much. When she took out my birth control, it was down here. So yeah, I had moved down a lot, and she told me that that was probably the reason why I was feeling all like the tingliness, numbness, the loss of strength in my arm, because it was possibly hitting one of my main nerves, or one of like my very like delicate nerves. So as soon as she felt for my birth control and she had felt that it had moved down, she's like, yeah, like we need to take it out because I don't want it to keep, you know, making you feel this type of way. So that same day she went in and she took it out. And she struggled so much as well to take it out because there's a tissue of my skin eating the birth control. I want to say like it was like covering it, and that could have been due to the fact that I had gained a lot of weight. So she struggled a lot to take out my birth control. My boyfriend actually went in with me and he actually said that she struggled a lot to like take it out because my skin was covering it. So when she did take out my birth control, she actually told me that it was actually a good thing that I took it out because it was already starting to dig into my skin too much. So obviously right away I was like, I need to get on birth control because I was also already living with my boyfriend. I had just moved in with my boyfriend. So obviously, girl, I was like, we're sexually active. I need to take care of myself. Like I need birth control. So we talked about all the different other methods that I could possibly get, and I ended up going with the patch, which is a little sticker that you put, or I placed it under my lower abdomen, which is like my lower stomach. And the week of your period, you just take off that sticker and you basically don't wear that patch for the rest of the week for your period, and then you put it back on once you're done with your period. I ended up getting the patch because I felt like I was going to be more comfortable with it, and it was one of the best options for me. So all of this happened, I want to say, I was trying to remember the exact timing because I know I moved in with my boyfriend like towards the end of the year. I want to say that I changed my birth control in January of 2024 because I had just moved in with my boyfriend. Like I think I was barely like maybe like a month or two living with my boyfriend, and I was already working at my job. So I do want to say that it was either mid-January or like early February when I changed my birth control. So I think I officially started it in February. Was like the first full month of me actually being on that birth control. So I was on the patch for February, March, April, May. According to my last period, I was on that birth control for 4 months before getting pregnant. And I actually already deleted my Flow app where I would keep track of my period. I want to say my last period was May 14th of 2024. That was the first day of my period, which was May 14th of 2024. So after that, I kept, you know, using my birth control just like normal. And I never ever had any type of pregnancy symptoms at all. Like now that I look back to it, like I was like sleepy, but I thought it was just because at the same time I was working a lot. During this time, we were super busy at my job. So I would get home and I would take little naps here and there, but I never really thought anything of it just because, like I said, I was just super busy at work that I just was like, oh, I'm just probably tired because it's been a long day. So I would get home and I would take naps, and my boyfriend started noticing that I was like acting different and that I was taking naps more than usual. I've honestly never really been the type of person to get home from work and like take naps and stuff, just because I'm always either like cleaning or cooking or doing something, just because I like, you know, sleeping throughout the whole night. So in the month of June, my boyfriend started noticing that I was taking more naps, that I was acting different. He just had a feeling that I was pregnant. I don't know exactly what type of feeling he got, but he had a feeling that I was pregnant. And he would tell me, he would be like, I think you're pregnant. Like he's like, I have a feeling you're pregnant. And I would just ignore him, and I would just kind of like laugh at him, because I was like, dude, like I'm literally on birth control. And yes, I was on birth control, but on top of that, like we were taking extra precautions, you know, TMI. But I wouldn't let him in me because I didn't fully trust the birth control. I mean, there's like pre-cum and stuff like that. But so the whole first week of June, he just kept telling me that he had a feeling that I was pregnant, that I needed to take a pregnancy test because his 21st birthday was coming up. So he wanted me to take a test before his party, because obviously we were going to be drinking and partying and stuff like that. So he didn't want me to be pregnant and be drinking. And how I said, like, I just kind of ignored him. Like every time he would tell me in the morning, he would be like, take a pregnancy test before you go to work, like, you know, just take one. And we actually already had pregnancy tests because I was going to put them in his piñata for his birthday. So we already had some, so I didn't have to go buy any. So he just kept telling me just to go and take the test. So finally on June 13th, I got out of work and he called me. And he would always ask me, like, as soon as I got home from work, or I would call him after work, he would always ask me if I took a test that morning. And I was always like, no. On June 13th, I called my boyfriend when I got out of work, and he told me, he's like, you didn't take a test this morning, huh? And I was just like, no, like, why am I gonna take a test? Like, I'm gonna start my period on Monday. Like, my Flow app told me I was gonna start my period on Monday, and I was already having like little cramps. So I was like, no, like, I'm gonna get my period. And I did also have some spotting. I had like brown spotting, or like brown discharge. So I had told him, I was like, no, like, this is normal. Like, this is usually how I feel before I get my period. Like, I know I'm gonna get my period. And he just kept telling me, he's like, just take one. Like, I know what I'm telling you. He's like, I just have a feeling you're pregnant. Just take one. The whole ride home, I talked to him and I told him, like, I don't think that I'm pregnant. Like, there's just no way. Like, you know, I'm on birth control. Like, I've been on birth control. But in the back of my head, I was like, wait, like, what if this birth control just didn't work for me? Like, what if, you know, in the moment that I switched, something just happened? A lot of things started going through my head, and I was like, wait, like, what if I am pregnant? So I get home, and my boyfriend has the pregnancy test on the bathroom counter, and he goes in the bathroom with me, and I pee on this stick. So as soon as I took the test, I placed it down on the bathroom counter, and I put the box on top of it. And then my boyfriend started peeing, and in that moment, like, I just knew that I wasn't pregnant. So I decided to look at the pregnancy test, and as soon as I looked at the pregnancy test, it was positive. The lines on the pregnancy test were super dark and bold. Like, they were there. Like, it was positive. Like, there's no way that you could be like, that's not a positive pregnancy test. Like, this is actually the first pregnancy test that I took. Like, that is super dark and bold. That is positive. I just remember looking down and literally seeing the two lines. I literally, like, my whole mind, like, just went blank. Like, I couldn't think of anything else. My boyfriend was literally peeing when I looked at the pregnancy test, and I just remember looking at it, and as soon as I looked at it, I put it down on the counter and I started bawling my eyes out. And in that moment, like, honestly, like, I just started thinking a lot of things. It was, I don't know, like, I was happy, but I was also like terrified. This was the last thing that I expected, especially because I was on birth control. Like I said, this is the last thing that ever crossed my mind. So when I found out that I was pregnant, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I was so scared. I knew at that moment that my whole life was going to change, and honestly, I couldn't believe what was happening. I was kind of like in denial. Like, I was just like, there's no way that I'm pregnant. I was just so scared. I've always been a super strong believer in todo pasa por algo. In the back of my mind, I knew that there was a reason why God was sending me this baby. I remember looking at my boyfriend, and he's like, he doesn't know what to do because I'm over here like crying he didn't know if I was crying because I was happy or because I was like scared or what was going through my head. So he was just looking at me and he just kept tugging me and telling me everything was gonna be okay. And like we're just in the bathroom like crying, and we just didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to think. And I remember telling him, I was like, I don't believe this test. Like, go get me one of the clear blue ones, the ones that say like pregnant, not pregnant. Because this one, I was just like, no, like what if I got one of like the ovulation tests or something. So I kind of got myself together and we went to Walgreens. We used to live like literally like 5 minutes away from a Walgreens. So we went to Walgreens and he got me the clear blue one. And we got home, I took that test and it came back pregnant. I remember for the rest of the day, like I just cried and cried. I didn't know what to do. A lot of things went through my head. I always saw myself, or I always imagined myself being a young mom, but my boyfriend and I always talked about starting a family together, but we didn't think we were going to be starting a family that soon. During this time as well, my boyfriend and I were buying a house. So we were in the whole process of buying a house. We were under a lot of stress. So for the rest of the day, we just talked. We talked a lot, and we had talked about like what if I got pregnant before, but it was actually like serious now. Like I was actually pregnant and we were actually talking about what we were gonna do. The next day I even called off of work because I just kept crying. I think I cried for maybe like 3 days straight. Just a lot of things went through my head. I would look at pictures of myself and I was like, oh my god, like I'm literally going to be a mom. I knew that my life was going to change forever, but I knew that God had sent me this baby for a reason. Like I said, I always been a strong believer que todo pasa por algo. After that, I did schedule a ultrasound to confirm that everything was okay with my pregnancy and that it was, you know, a real positive test. So I went to Hands of Hope and they took my first ultrasound, or first they did like a pregnancy test, like a medical pregnancy test, and that came out positive. So my first ultrasound was done at 8 weeks and 6 days. That's how big the baby was measuring when I first got my first ultrasound. I found out that I was pregnant June 13th of 2024, and then I had to wait to get an ultrasound, which was until July 15th of 2024. And like how I mentioned earlier, my boyfriend's 21st birthday party was coming up. I was not comfortable telling anyone that I was pregnant just because I knew that I was super early on and I just didn't want to say anything, and I wanted to wait until my ultrasound to make sure everything was okay. So at my boyfriend's party, like I literally had to fake that I was drinking. I had a red cup and I was just acting like I was drinking, and everyone thought that I was drunk. So no one knew that I was pregnant until after my boyfriend's birthday party, but everyone that night thought that I was actually drinking. I couldn't wait till my ultrasound appointment, but I wanted to wait to tell my parents until I had like the ultrasound pictures, but I just couldn't wait. We ended up telling our whole family the same night. Everyone, like, we told everyone separately, but we ended up telling everyone. That is how I found out that I was pregnant. I am currently 38 weeks, which is 9 months. I am due any day now. Although my pregnancy was kept off social media, I did make sure to film every single little moment. So I do have everyone's reactions. I do have my gender reveal, my baby shower, all that good stuff. So I will be uploading all those videos after this one. I can't wait to finally be able to post that I'm pregnant. I cannot believe that I'm gonna be a mom in a couple weeks. Like, it's just mind-blowing to me that I'm gonna have a whole baby. I'm so grateful and happy that I'm able to experience this. It has been such a beautiful journey, honestly. Like, God's timing is perfect, and I know he sent this baby for a reason, and I just cannot wait to be a mom. I feel like there's a couple things that I left out for today's video, but in the next couple videos, as I upload more about my pregnancy, I feel like a lot of that's going to be covered in my other videos. But that is simply how I found out that I was pregnant. So just a reminder, girls, that birth control is not always 100% effective.